Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of College of the Dead, publisher of comic books for the last 30 years and more. And that's a long time, right? And I have a background in finance. I've been on the board of directors of a small public company. And I want to talk a little bit about DC Comics and the recent activity of this company, Elliott Management, taking a $3.2 billion stake in AT&T. Okay, so primarily, as comic book people, what we're interested in is, oh, well, these guys, they put in $3.2 billion. Marvel was bought for $4 billion. So are they going to, cut back on DC Comics and maybe license out the comics, stop publishing the comics, make the comics cheaper somehow? Well, look, no, they're not. They're not going to stop publishing the comics. They're not going to license the comics out to Dark Horse or IDW or Dynamite or even my publishing company. No, they're not going to do that because, look, first of all, get a sense of perspective. $3.2 billion, that's a heck of a lot of money. But AT&T is a $279 billion company. They have $180 billion worth of debt. They do want to cut back on their expenses. But however they're paying page rates or they're paying for extra office space to justify producing comic books is irrelevant. The numbers are just too small. They own DirecTV. Or DirecTV is what the investor, Elliott Management, considers to be an undermanaged asset. Yes, all the entertainment properties at AT&T are undermanaged assets. They also own HBO. Fox, before they sold their entertainment operations to Disney for billions and billions, was looking at and making offers to buy HBO for its streaming service. Something in the numbers were starting to get absolutely enormous. And HBO is just a small division of what AT&T owns through its Warner Media acquisition. So, no, $3.2 billion is not going to dictate what happens even in the entire entertainment division of AT&T. It's just too freaking small. That said, Elliott Management is known as an activist investor. They do try to get a seat on the board. They try to make proposals. They push people around. And here's what they're ultimately trying to do. What they're trying to do is they're trying to get AT&T to be viewed as a media company rather than a phone company. Why? Why do that? Well, a significant part of its operations are media now because of the acquisitions, which include comics and movies and HBO and TV shows and things like that. And if you're viewed as a stock, as a media company, you're worth 12 times earnings rather than, say, 9 times earnings. Jim Cramer was just talking about this on CNBC a few days ago. So what that would mean would be just the perception of them being an entertainment company with it also having the AT&T and the phone connotation, but an entertainment company primarily that has the opportunity for growth based on its intellectual properties and its distribution of the intellectual properties, it makes it worth like a third more valuable. So this is why they say they think they can get the stock up to $60 in a couple of years if they have a more aggressive approach to how they're managing and leading the divisions over at AT&T, up from what's like $38. So that's what they angle to do. They're making a $3.2 billion investment. They'll be public about making management changes, but none of these management changes are going to result in anything that's worried about in this article. People who love comics, we are concerned. We want to keep comics good. We want more comics, not less comics. But licensing all the comics is not ever something that's going to happen at DC Comics. I'm going to tell you not ever because finance people don't understand entertainment. It's really two separate things, and they are loath to and really, really don't like to make changes in anything that could impact the value of the intellectual property. And even people with tremendous experience in publishing comics and entertainment, leadership-oriented people, they would have no idea how to account for how it would impact the intellectual properties and the value of those properties. So Wonder Woman did $1 billion or just under. Aquaman, a C-level, B-level property for DC Comics, did $1 billion. The DC Comics properties are worth, just conservatively, with all the film and everything combined, the licensing, just a wild guess, at least $10 billion. Maybe it's worth $15 billion. It's worth what people are willing to pay. But as its own separate entity that can produce films and whatnot, it would be worth a tremendous amount. So the finance guys are aware of this. They don't just go in and start doing like leveraged buyout stuff and cutting costs crazily. So they are not going to tinker with DC Comics. If anything, they might demand of management that they're more focused and that the content that they're producing is more applicable to marketable, mainstream, good stories and good content. There may be management shakeup at DC Comics, but it's not going to result in there being a heck of a lot less comics. Again, look at the AT&T stock, the value of the stock, the value of the company. It's $279 billion. $3.2 billion is not a big chunk of change. The only reason we know that this small company, Elliott Management's not anywhere near as big as these guys, but they manage money. They manage significant money, but still, they can't move the needle over at this place except as a loud activist investor making suggestions. Hey, we should change this, we should change that. But the only reason we know about it is because they're promoting themselves a lot. If they had bought 5% or more of the outstanding stock of AT&T, then they would have been forced to make a public announcement because they would have owned and file additional paperwork, I believe is a Schedule D, to let people know that they were a big player in the stock because of their public statements and other moves that they might make. They do have a smart Goldman Sachs executive that they grabbed up, and this is talked about in different finance and industry trades, that is going to help them with their relationship with AT&T to try to, and they stole them out of Goldman Sachs to help them leverage their relationship with AT&T. But AT&T has, kind of all of Goldman Sachs available to them and tremendous resources. They're not going to be pushed into doing anything they don't want to do. But this will get a conversation started, and it'll get them to value their entertainment properties even more. So it's a net good thing. Change is always a little bit scary, but it's not something that we have to worry that all of a sudden DC Comics is going away or they're going to fire everybody and not make good comics anymore. The comics, if anything, are going to be better now that they have someone that's forcing them to hold people accountable and really focus on the property. They are suggesting there could be as much as $10 billion in synergies that they should realize. That's a lot of money to try to squeeze out of a company. And, maybe they wind up spinning off DirecTV if it can't be managed properly, or one of the other entertainment assets they own. Maybe even DC Comics. Maybe that gets spun out separately. And if it did, it would be great for DC because they'd have a focus. And of course, it would have to include the movies. It would have a focus on producing good stuff and making sure that it's marketable with accountability to shareholders, direct accountability to shareholders. That's not impossible, but it's also not going to happen in the short-term horizon. So don't even worry. DC Comics is not going anywhere. Good stuff is going to be coming to them because of the success of the films, really.
Hey, how you doing? College of the Dead is my 140-page zombie apocalypse comic book. It's black and white. It's completely done. The first printing ships October 31st, 2019. Make sure you get a chance to get a copy of this. It's on Indiegogo. It was successfully fully funded. All the money was raised for it. It's going to be shipping in October, and that will be the first printing. We'll have a few copies of that beyond what people pre-ordered, but not a heck of a lot. So go ahead and make sure you get a copy of this, and you can see the link in the description below. You can also go to collegeofthedead.com. It will take you to where it's currently available. And I'll tell you what, this is a phenomenal comic book. You can see the cover of book 2 right here. We're working on that right now to finish it for January 2020. And these are the interiors of College of the Dead book 1. all done by the same artist, Javier Aranda. He's a phenomenal artist. And go ahead and check this out. I know you're going to love this comic book.